What's up, guys? It's Dan here, and today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I got started in real estate investing and also as a traveling nurse. So I guess I'll start from nursing school graduation onward because I've been a nurse for about 4 years now, and that has been the bulk of my real estate investing / travel nursing career. And I'll try to go into how I manage the rentals while I am traveling as a nurse. So, I guess when I first graduated, I set a goal, and ever since then, I set the goal before I graduated, but I've been working towards that ever since graduation, and it was to pay off my student loans and after that become financially free. And to me, that was making $10,000 of gross rental income, because I know once I can get gross rental income up to $10,000, eventually the properties will pay themselves off. And I mean, after, if I continue to travel nurse, I'll be able to pay them off early and just have that rental income coming in every single month, $10,000. Without a mortgage, and that would be enough for me to live off of. And then I'll also invest in other stocks and index funds to pad that, to support my family, support my kids in the future, things like that. So, and I wanted to do that while making all of the properties easy to manage. So the way I started that was the first goal was to pay off my student loans, because I really wanted to be out of student loan debt. So the way I was going to do that after I graduated was to increase my income and lower my expenses. That's literally all there was to it. I was thinking every day how I could increase my income and lower my expenses. And I bought a house about 3 months after I graduated and got a job at my first hospital as a staff nurse. And so you might be thinking, why would you buy a house if you're trying to lower your expenses? If you're trying to increase your income and lower your expenses, wouldn't buying a house increase your expenses? Well, not the way I was doing it, because I didn't want to live with family. The family I was living with was about an hour to an hour and a half away from where I was working at a hospital. So what I decided to do, I read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, and decided on house hacking. House hacking is where you buy a house and rent out either the bedrooms or the units that are adjacent to it, if it's like a 2 or 3 unit home. But in my case, what I decided to do, and what I thought was the most affordable in the city where I was employed and where the hospital I was working, there were many affordable houses right around the hospital where I was working. And so I looked for a bunch of deals all around the hospital where I was working, where I could walk to the hospital, because one, that would lower my commute expenses. I wouldn't have to waste money on gas getting to the hospital. I would be able to just walk over to the hospital, which would encourage me to work a lot more overtime, which I did. And I would be able to always kind of be close to the house and respond to, I guess, problems that might come up while I'm renting out the bedrooms. All of these were things that I was thinking when I bought my first home. And I also was going to treat it as an educational learning experience. I figured I was going to make some mistakes, which I did. But it all was a good teaching experience to help me in my journey to buying the next home. So what I did is I bought a house. I think it was about 2 months after I started my first staff job, and it was around $200,000. I think exactly it was like $192,000 or $193,000. And so my payment on that, I didn't have a lot of money saved up. So you might be thinking, how did you save up all the money? I had been working as a CNA before I graduated nursing school, saving up money in prep for this. So if you are able to use an FHA loan, which is what I did, looking back, I would have just used a conventional, because you can still put I think it's 3.5 to 5% down on a home using a conventional loan. But that's what I did. I used an FHA loan, so I only had to put 3.5% down. So if you're talking about a $200,000 house, that's only about $7,500 that you have to have saved up. And I say only as a relative kind of thing, because if I had to save up 20% down, which is traditionally what you would put down on a house, you would have to save up about $40,000, which was going to take me a really, really long time. But instead, I was going to save up only $7,500, so I was able to acquire a $200,000 house with only $7,500 of my own money. And on top of that, it had 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, and there was a special place in the basement, which this kind of is something that's going to require ingenuity, and also you to ask yourself whether you would be willing to have roommates or live with other people. So what I did is I lived in the basement, and I stayed and I rented out the top 3 bedrooms. Each of them had their own bathroom, so they were able to be rented out for a premium. I rented them out for about $700 a month, so that was $2,100 that I was getting, and my mortgage was only, at the time, unfortunately taxes and everything, I made some mistakes along the way, at the time it was only about $1,200. So I was getting almost $1,000 above the mortgage while I was living there. That helped me tremendously to be able to save up a bunch of money to be ready to start travel nursing and have that, I guess, that buffer that I talk about in other videos of having 3 to 6 months of expenses ready for when you're travel nursing in case you can't find a job or something. It gives you that security. So that's what I did for my first year of nursing. I rented out the rooms, saved up as much money as I possibly could. That was my lowering of expenses. What are most people's most common and highest expense? It's their living, it's their rent, their mortgage. The next is their car. And I always bought used cars, and I never took out loans for any of them. They were always Honda Civics that were about $2,500 to $3,500 that I bought from private party sales. I did good inspections. I watched YouTube videos on how to look for the bad things in the car. I bought one of the engine readers to make sure I wasn't getting a dud, and it always worked out for me, thankfully. So I bought I think I had like a $3,000 old Honda Civic that I didn't have a payment on. That eliminates my my second highest living expense that most people have. And then the third one is food. So I cooked all of my own food, and I'm pretty sure that my weekly food budget, and I go to the gym pretty frequently, and I like to get a high amount of protein. So I wanted to have a high protein, high carb diet, but on a budget. And so I cooked rice, beans, chicken, broccoli just about every single day, and I just varied the spices. And I'm pretty sure my weekly food budget was about maybe $10 to $20 a week. It was very, very minimal. And I rarely went out. When I did, it was for a special occasion if a bunch of friends maybe were going out, and I really didn't spend too much money. I didn't get too much alcohol while I was out. So that's what I did my whole entire first year before I was even a travel nurse. And that allowed me to really hammer home on my student loan payments. And then once I started travel nursing, that's when I started to really make a dent in my student loan payments, because I had about $70,000 worth of student loans, which I've talked about in another video. And so I started paying down those loans, hammering down those loans. I still had my home rented out back in Baltimore. If anything ever went wrong, I gave my number to the tenants, and I was like, hey, text me if anything ever goes wrong around the house, and I'll just hire a contractor to come and fix it. The only time you really have to go and be around the house, unless you want to pay somebody to do this also, is to turn over leases. If somebody wants to move out and you have to move in a new tenant. If you like to do that yourself, that's really the only thing you need to be around the house to do when you're managing real estate while you're travel nursing. So I found that it was relatively simple to manage the property while I was a traveling nurse, because not too many issues ever came up. There was an air conditioning issue while summer, when it went from winter to summer, and I had to pay somebody, a couple $100, or I think it might have been $1,000 to take care of that while I was travel nursing. But I just considered that cost of doing business, because I'm out making crazy amounts of money travel nursing. I'm going to where the money is. But unfortunately, I'm not there to try and troubleshoot it, get the best deal, and fix things at my house. So that's just what I considered a cost of doing business as a traveling nurse while I'm managing properties. I'm just going to do a time check to see how much I'm rambling. One sec. All right. All right, I just did a time check, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going on too long. I think I'm at about 10 minutes now. So I don't want to ramble on too long. I just want to give you kind of the synopsis of my story and then maybe you can ask more questions and I can make more videos about your questions later. So I eventually, in the first year, paid off my student loans because I was working a ton of overtime as a traveling nurse, getting paid way more than I was as a staff nurse. And then once I had my student loans paid off, I just put that money that I was putting towards my student loans into savings up for my next purchase, which was another, real estate prices tended to go up while, this, since 2008 all the way up to, I think it was 2019, 2020 when I bought this house. And I was looking for crafty deals in a much better area than where I found my first deal. So I bought in an up-and-coming kind of tertiary city. It's in the DMV area, so it was right near Baltimore, right near DC, but in one of the tertiary markets around there that isn't one of the big cities yet, but a really big city that I came to know and love growing up in the DMV area. So I bought there. It was like a 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, but it was divided into like 3 separate units, 3 separate entrances. So what I ended up doing was separating out all the units. They all had their own kitchens, their own bathrooms, their own entrances. I added an extra bathroom in the basement where I wanted to live. And so I kind of just did the same thing again. I house hacked it. I lived in the basement and rented out the top 2 units. I bought it for $370,000 and I rented out, so my mortgage on it, I did another 5% down loan. So I think I ended up paying, but I got the sellers to pay all the closing costs because I wanted my return on investment to be the highest. So I think I ended up only paying about $18,000 or something like that. Let's call it $20,000 for simple math to acquire this $370,000 house. But I was able to rent out both units upstairs for a combined rent of about, I think it was $2,500, $2,600. And so my mortgage on that was only $2,000. And so I had a $2,000 a month mortgage, but I was collecting rent that was equivalent to $2,600. And so I was able to house hack again and get paid to live in my property. So I think my camera just died, so I'll try to wrap this up. The goal that I'm working towards now is to kind of just make my life as convenient as possible so that I can manage my properties and get to that goal of $10,000 of monthly rental income, and just manage the properties until they pay themselves off or I pay them off through travel nursing. And I'm trying to do that by sticking to travel assignments in the DC metropolitan area. That's what I try to mostly, but I'm not writing off any assignments that would be crazy money, like maybe out of state or something like that. I'm always ready to keep my options open, but my main priority is location, and I talked about that in the last video. So that's what I'm working towards now. I'm hoping to acquire a couple more, maybe 2 more properties, either by building my own or acquiring them in high quality areas that I can feel comfortable that the houses are going to appreciate. So that's my story since graduating nursing school. I hope you guys found some of the information in this video helpful. I tried to get through it a little bit quickly. I didn't want to bore you, but if you found anything in this video helpful or anything in this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, ask me any questions you need, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Ask any questions you like, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.